On Olympus, the summit of the gods, there was no peace, but the uneasy truce of infinite egos. Humanity, with its fleeting lives, saw them as an ideal of golden perfection, but beneath the splendor, the truth was more terrestrial. The Greek gods, oh, they were so easy to provoke. A single word, a gesture, a slight omission of an offering, was enough to twist the cosmos into a titanium tantrum, and in the center of this storm, seated upon a throne forged with the sparks of his own ambition, sat Zeus, the king, the father, and often the most insecure of them all. It is said that his greatest fear was not the titans he had locked away in Tartarus, nor the monsters he fathered on his extramarital strolls. His true terror was the past. Zeus had devoured his father Cronus, or at least the legacy of tyranny that Cronus represented. But power, a sweet poison, turned Zeus into a mirror of the very ghost he had sworn to banish. He was a tyrant, but one with better press. A man, for that is what they essentially were, magnified humans, with an unsatiable lust for power. His wife, Hera, the goddess of marriage, was perfectly aware of this. Her existence had become a series of intrigues to avenge the countless affronts from her husband. Every one of Zeus's infidelities, from Io to Semele, was a dagger not to her heart but to her title. For on Olympus, betrayal was a matter of protocol, not of feeling. Hera was frequently condemned to an undignified and vengeful role due to Zeus's infidelities. One morning, Zeus's ego felt more inflated than usual. The cause, a small city in Arcadia called Lycusura, had erected a statue to Poseidon, one that was grander, shinier, and, according to Olympian gossips, had a better profile than that of the king of the gods himself. A question without answer for Zeus. Who did Poseidon think he was to overshadow him in his own pantheon? Hera found him in his hall, polishing his aegis shield with excessive fury, a gesture of vanity that was itself a mockery. "My dear, is it true that in Lycusura, Poseidon's bronze is brighter than your reputation?" she inquired, her voice like poisonous honey. Zeus, offended to the marrow of his divine bones, replied, "Be silent, Hera. It is an offense to my authority. It is a hubris of the worst kind, an attempt by a human to equal the gods, or worse, to equate my brother with me." Hera, the master of interpersonal conflict and moral dilemmas, seized the opportunity. "It is not an offense, Zeus. It is proof that your presence on earth is intermittent. You are always wandering, disguised as a swan or a bull, while Poseidon, who at least has the decency to stay in his sea, maintains order. People need a present ruler, not a tireless seducer in disguise." She had touched upon his Hamartía, his tragic flaw, the excess of his passions. Zeus's brain, dominated by ego, did not hear the criticism of his infidelities, but the challenge to his power. Plot point 1 was activated. Zeus decided that the only way to reaffirm his supremacy was not with a lightning bolt, that was too obvious, but with an act of supreme vanity, accompanied by an unexpected revelation. "Good. I will prove that I am the greatest, not with pure power, but with an ingenuity that demonstrates my lineage is superior. I will sire a child who surpasses me in every aspect, a creature that will be at once my glory and my proof of virility." Hera could barely suppress a poetic laugh. Zeus's desire for glory was leading him straight to his doom, a self-imposed descent into the underworld. Oh, what a novel idea. But who will be the mother? Another nymph? A mortal? Or perhaps one of your own descendants to add a bit of an incestuous flavor to the mix? She asked. Zeus looked at her with that air of superiority that always preceded disaster. No, it must be a mortal, but one of ancient lineage and incomparable virtue. The Queen of Mycenae, Alcmene, and to ensure my plan works, I will go in disguise. The story of Heracles' conception is a perfect midpoint for this drama of vanity. Zeus, unable to simply seduce Alcmene, devised one of his famous and complicated tricks. He disguised himself as Amphitryon, Alcmene's husband who was away at war. But that was not all. To ensure the encounter would be legendary, He asked Helios, the sun, to halt his chariot. 3 nights of passion were condensed into one, the longest night the earth had ever known. The narrative rhythm stretched out to give weight to the act of creation. 3 days of glory in a single coitus. Show, don't tell. Zeus did not tell anyone he was the best. He simply showed it by altering time itself, a masterful display of his excessive ego. But Olympus had security cameras in every cloud. Hera knew, and the wrath of a betrayed goddess of marriage is not a mere outburst. It is a coldly calculated antagonistic force. Her target was not Zeus, who was immortal and untouchable, but his pride incarnate, the child about to be born. When Alcmene was about to give birth, Zeus, in a rare moment of public boasting, swore before the gods, "The child of my blood who is born today shall be the sovereign of all my descendants." And here came Hera's negation of the negation. She hurried to Hamartía, the goddess of childbirth, and ordered her to delay the birth of Heracles. Simultaneously, she sped up the delivery of a cousin of Alcmene, the insignificant and cowardly Eurystheus. Thus, by a mere obstetric technicality, Heracles, the son of Zeus's glory and ego, was born after Eurystheus. Zeus's oath, the greatest and most solemn in the cosmos, was fulfilled to the letter. The son of the coward Eurystheus was proclaimed king. Zeus realized his mistake. His own vanity, his need to prove he was the most powerful through a superior creature, had led him to chain that creature, his own son, to the service of his weakest relative. The irony was so cruel that only a god could conceive it. The greatest hero of Greece, Heracles, would have to serve a weakling for the rest of his life. Zeus's ego, so easily provoked by a brighter statue, had condemned his son. Hera had won the battle of sovereignty. But Hera's revenge was not over. An antagonistic force does not stop. It progresses to become more negative, from worse to horrible. She knew that even though the child served Eurystheus, he was still the son of Zeus, and therefore, a threat to her peace. Now, at the Olympian dinner table, the atmosphere was tense. Hera watched a silent Zeus, humiliated on his own throne. The son of his ego was now the slave of his cousin. "Victory," the wind whispered. But the game of provocation never ends. Hera, the goddess of marriage, did not just want the submission of the son of infidelity. She wanted his total destruction. And in a whisper that the echo carried down to the underworld, she asked Hades for a favor. A pact. She was preparing the next phase, a madness that would cause Heracles at the height of his Hamartía to kill his own children. A new line of events was about to open up. How did the Queen of Olympus dare to ask for such an atrocity? And what fate awaited her rival, Poseidon, whose statue had started this whole madness? Find out in the next episode of The Greek Gods Were So Easy to Provoke.